Hi, this is Brian Kim. I want to share with you case number 288 in the Best Way to Do Cataract Surgery series. And the title of this series is not to suggest this is the best and only way, but to get you to think critically of your technique so that you can provide the very best for your patient. So this is a patient with a dense cataract, but the more important aspect of this is the patient has some zonulopathy. So as a result of this, I'm going to perform a hybrid divide and conquer technique, leveraging the power of this Veritas phaco machine, but then performing terminal chop instead of the typical divide and conquer in order to leverage the manual fracturing techniques that I've used, and then performing cross chop to disassemble this dense cataract with zonulopathy. So I use a corneal marker to help me center and size the rhexis. I make a paracentesis incision, first on the right side and then the left side, making sure I'm parallel to iris plane, which creates a nice corneal shelf, which will allow me to achieve a self-sealing incision. This is intracameral epinephrine, and then some dispersive viscoelastic to coat the corneal endothelium. This is a triplanar corneal incision. I make a vertical groove, place the blade into the deep part of the groove, tunnel through the cornea, and then I enter. Using that same dispersive cannula, which is in the eye already, I keep that in there to control the eye. And this is the Moria microrhexis forceps. I puncture the center, pull down towards me. The sharp tip are really great because I'm able to cut very easily. Grabbing the right side of the tear, I go around circumferentially. As I do the rhexis, you can see the stria in the capsule. And this is the first sign of zonulopathy. As I'm doing the rhexis, you can see the stria and the folds. And you can see the lens is actually moving as I'm doing the rhexis. So that makes me somewhat concerned. There's higher risk for capsule damage when you have zonulopathy, higher risk for vitreous loss, higher risk for losing lens material. But I'm taking my time, I'm going around. And again, using that cannula to control the eye is very helpful in these situations. Finishing off the rhexis. This is the capsule fornix hydrodissection technique. I place the cannula under the rhexis edge contra-incisionally, making sure I'm completely under. That's why you see me keep doing that maneuver, making sure I'm under the rhexis edge. Get out to the capsule fornix, push down, get a wave, lifting the lens up with the chopper to decompress the bag. And again, I'm very careful with these. When I know there's zonulopathy, you don't want to be too aggressive when you're trying to turn the lens. Oftentimes, I'll see videos of surgeons just really roughly trying to turn the lens and loosen the lens and creating a lot of stress on the zonules. That's really unnecessary and, in my opinion, not great technique. So you lift the incision with the chopper, go in with irrigation off to minimize Descemet's trauma. You want to remove the surface epinuclear material. But because this patient has zonulopathy, I'm going to switch to the sculpt mode. And then I'm going to perform a divide and conquer. So you can see this is a rather dense lens. You can see all that smoke coming up. You can see the highly reflectile nature of the lens material. When you see that shininess, that usually tells you how dense the cataract is. This Veritas machine has great cutting efficiency for sculpting. So I don't have to push down too much. It just cuts very well. I turn the lens 180 degrees around, perform some more sculpting. So then I said to myself, you know, I had that super dense cataract before, and I performed divide and conquer with that one. Might as well do that for this case too. So I turned the lens 90 degrees, do some more sculpting, again, in a cross-shaped configuration. And again, if you try to do divide and conquer the traditional way here, you would still fail because you can't crack from the top. These lenses are so dense, you're probably going to get a posterior plate phenomenon. So how do you overcome the posterior plate phenomenon? You perform the terminal chop. So you can see I'm placing the chopper around the lens contra-incisionally. I'm able to place that chopper deep because of the terminal chop maneuver. I'm able to place the chopper deep within the trough, pull the chopper toward the phaco tip, fracturing the lens from the terminal side, and because I'm able to propagate that chop all the way through, turning the lens 90 degrees, performing another terminal chop maneuver, fracturing that lens piece as well in half. Placing the chopper around that first quadrant, performing another cross chop maneuver, separating it very easily, grabbing that first fragment up with some vacuum, again, which is very easy with this machine. Great holding power with this Veritas machine. Grabbing that lens fragment with some vacuum, crushing it between the instruments, and then emulsifying the lens pieces. Again, you can see in the upper right-hand corner, you can see the cartoon of my foot pedal. You can see all the aspiration, vacuum, and ultrasonic energy on the right side as well. I turn the lens piece, getting the second quadrant in front of me, performing another cross-chop maneuver, fracturing the lens in half, and then using manual fracturing forces to crush the lens pieces into smaller pieces, and then emulsifying the lens piece. Again, this machine has great vacuum, great aspiration and vacuum holding power. The lens pieces just come so easily to the tip, and it holds it very well, which is really advantageous. And then once I have the lens piece on the tip, I'm able to crush it with a chopper and then emulsify the lens pieces. So now half the lens pieces are gone. I'm going to turn the second heminucleus in front of me. Again, I've already disassembled the lens into 4 quadrants. I come out and push some more dispersive viscoelastic to coat the corneal endothelium. Sliding the chopper around the lens piece, cracking again the third and fourth quadrants away from each other and separating the lens piece, performing another cross chop maneuver around the third quadrant, crushing the lens pieces into smaller pieces, and then emulsifying the lens piece. Using some vacuum to grab that fragment up, performing more manual fracturing techniques, breaking up the lens into smaller pieces, again crushing the lens with manual fracturing forces, and then emulsifying the lens pieces. Excellent coating power with the endocoat. Excellent chamber stability with the phaco machine. Excellent cutting efficiency as well. Getting the chopper around the final quadrant, hooking the peripheral lens, pulling it centered toward the phaco tip, fracturing the lens against the phaco tip with that final cross chop maneuver, using some vacuum to grab those pieces up. And once I have the piece against the phaco tip, I'm able to mash the lens piece with the chopper against the phaco tip. Once I mash the pieces against the phaco tip and the pieces are small enough, I eat the pieces. So you can see all that aspiration vacuum action. You can see it on the right side. There's a lot of spiking. There's a lot of spiking of the aspiration and vacuum on and off and on and off. But look at the power. There's very little power being used. I'm just fluttering my foot pedal using minimal amount of ultrasonic energy, but still able to disassemble this lens rather efficiently, rather carefully, in this case of a dense lens with zonulopathy. And you see at the very end here, as I'm removing these last fragments, you see that nice bubble. That bubble is an indicator that I still have good endothelial protection because that bubble is trapped within the dispersive viscoelastic. Crushing the lens between the instruments, very carefully, protecting the posterior capsule, crushing the lens between the instruments again, and then when I'm ready, fluttering the pedal to clear the tip and remove those pieces, and then emulsifying those pieces. Again, you saw fluttering the pedal and getting rid of those pieces, keeping the chopper deep to protect the posterior capsule. And even though it takes a little time to do it this way, I feel like it's just safer. I'm able to reduce the risk for posterior capsule rupture when you're dealing with these dense lenses. All right, so everything's out, finally. So I take the chopper out, push BSS in, take the phaco tip out, and I go in with the eye handpiece. You always want to start subincisionally. Get right up against the anterior cortical material. Sweeping side to side, trying to loosen it up. You can see my settings are rather aggressive, and so I'm going to be modifying my settings a little bit on the IA. Because of those aggressive settings, especially in the case like this, I have to go really, really slow. So you can see I'm using my foot pedal to really control how much aspiration vacuum I'm using. Get the last pieces, and then pulsing BSS into the subincisional capsule fornix. You can see there's some schmutz coming out. There's some pieces still hiding in the subincisional capsule fornix. Peeled it out, and that's it. Turning off infusion, pushing some cohesive viscoelastic to fill the bag. Using the sweep to polish under the rexus edge, first on the left side and then the right side. Oftentimes I'll use a sweep also to try to grab any remaining subincisional cortical material, but in this case it's nice and clean. So again, besides doing the rexus and seeing the stria in the capsule, I have not encountered any other zonular problems. And I think it's because I used a lot of techniques that were very gentle on the zonules and the capsule by leveraging manual fracturing techniques. And then the single piece acrylic lens, the ZC-BU, is going into the bag. Using that same cannula to disengage the haptics from the optic, making sure both haptics are in the bag, just like that. Turning on infusion, getting underneath the lens, removing the viscoelastic from within the bag. Polishing under the rexus edge, removing the viscoelastic from the anterior chamber, and then I'll hydrate my incision. So again, this is a patient with a somewhat of a dense lens. You saw when I was sculpted the whitening of the lens material. That tells you how dense it is. But as I was doing the rexus, I can see stria in the capsule as I was pulling. So I was worried about zonulopathy. And so I decided to perform a modified hybrid divide and conquer using the terminal chop technique. So again, with divide and conquer, you sculpt, but then you try to crack from the surface, which again, with divide and conquer and trying to sculpt, if you try to crack from the top, what you have to do then is make a wide trough, and you have to make a deep trough. That's the only way it's easier for that technique. But again, when you do that, you're going to push down on the lens, you're going to push down on the zonules, and if you have bad zonules, it's just going to move away from you. And so I don't really think that's the best way. And so instead, I did a terminal chop after the divide and conquer, so a hybrid technique. I made my cross, but then I placed the chopper around the lens equator, around one of the troughs, and then because the chopper is deep, the phaco tip is deep, I'm able to place both instruments rather deep, crushing and dividing the lens from the terminal side and propagating the chop all the way across, and then turning the lens 90 degrees and doing the same thing, performing the terminal chop 2 more times, and now I have 4 pieces. Again, doing it this way, minimal stress on the zonules. You don't have to struggle with cracking. You bypass the posterior plate phenomenon. You saw I was able to leverage manual forces, crushing the lens into smaller pieces. You saw the right side overlay, showing my foot pedal modulation, as well as the aspiration and vacuum, as well as leveraging the aspiration and vacuum on this machine, and then just fluttering the phaco. You saw I always have very low ultrasonic energy with these cases. And despite a dense cataract with zonulopathy, you can have great result with a clear cornea postoperatively with these patients, even post-op day 1. So I hope this was helpful to you, and I thank you for your attention.